This thing's been 3.5. It could be 4 by game time. I don't know where it is right now. Like, I don't know. But if it's at 4 or 3, like, yeah, I'm going to bet the Eagles. I think I am.
It was a tough game last week, and now they're going to come back and they're going to be more focused than they normally are.
Exactly. Having said that, let's get into the tiers for this week's preview. And it's almost like we could do this thing in 2 tiers. There's the top tier games. There's a lot of those. And then there's the mid tier, which is basically the bottom tier, because there's not a lot of bottom tiers. So we threw the Panthers and the Saints in the bottom tier. This is the hanger game. This is like Panthers Bucks last week. You got fucking Mike Evans out there making history. 7 people saw it. There's going to be 6 people watching this game. They're all going to be at the Superdome. So the tier idea was Christmas things. Let's discuss Christmas.
Yeah.
Let's discuss it.
Of which there are many.
What do we like about Christmas? What do we not like about Christmas?
I'm really pro-Christmas. I like getting the Christmas tree. Now, I drive about 30 seconds to a Christmas tree farm of sorts, have them throw it on the top of my vehicle and drive it home. But it's great.
Buddy came over the other night. We had just bought our Christmas tree. We got absolutely jobbed on that thing because, like, it just charges you so much for these fucking Christmas trees. It's insane.
That's a good racket. I got to get.
Yeah, and my buddy comes over, and Meg's like, "Yeah, where'd you get your Christmas tree, Ben?" He's like, "Well, I went and chopped it down myself." I was like, "Shut the fuck up. Get out of my house." Because that is not an expectation that I want to create in my house.
Well, and don't those trees look a little ragged?
Yeah, I mean, you want the perfection. You go up to the mall in the parking lot outside Fashion Scare, and you grab you a $250 8-foot tree.
You're not getting out of there without dropping at least a two bills.
I heard about a guy that paid $150 this week for a solid tree. So there are deals.
I want to
be
see
had.
the tree. Half of it's probably gone in the back.
But I'm a big Christmas tree guy. I know we made fun of Kyle about having
it was late October.
3 trees in his house in late October. But of all the code breaks, that's pretty low on the list for me because the smell is just heavenly. I love the smell of Christmas trees. I love putting the ornaments on. Last night we did the ornaments with the kids, did a time-lapse video. The whole thing. I got my Intimidator ornament, my Dale Earnhardt ornament, threw it up in the middle of the tree. We got kids doing school project ornaments now. Like the ornament game is.
So talk to me about this. You hear? For years and years, I've been gifted, ornaments from family, from parents. You pick up ornaments along the way. I did not know that I married into a family where all of the ornaments are fairly uniform. And you just have a really good-looking, pretty tree.
So you have like a stock tree.
That's waspy.
Yeah, that's really waspy.
Well, but the tree is real, okay? But you see, we got like a gold, silver, white ball.
That's a white Christmas, all right.
Yeah. Oh, but I like it, though. I didn't think I'd like it, but I like it. It
looks
looks
pretty. What do you think
pretty.
about my tree? You want to see my tree?
Yeah. I want to see your tree. Yeah, look at that. You got a dog in that photo, too? Her name's Zoe.
Now, here's something about Christmas trees.
You've been in that house.
Okay, this is the
week.
Oh, wow, time lapse.
Yeah, I threw a time lapse up. But here's the thing about Christmas trees, and you might not agree based upon the way you decorate your tree, but I'm a colored light guy.
Oh, no, I'm not. No.
You're a white
light.
light.
White light.
Oh, I'm a colored light guy.
Nothing but class. White.
Yeah,
it's
white lights.
All class.
I'm all about the color.
You got
tree.
Are they blinking?
What are you, a Republican or something?
No, is that what it is?
I don't know where the political ties.
The political ties.
But hey, are you got blinking lights?
No, I just like.
What are they? Big bulbs?
I love passing.
Those
a
are
house.
great. Remember those? The big bulbs?
I want.
Those were
the big bulbs.
The big ones.
Yeah, the big
you
ones.
Screw them and you throw them. They pop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was a blast.
I passed a tree that's got the nativity scene out there. It's got a bunch of statues. It's got colored lights. Like that's what Christmas is about. Like the Griswolds. That's what I want to see on Christmas. I'm nostalgic. I want those lights. Another thing I like about Christmas is it's just a big long list of things I don't like about Christmas.
Perfect.
And it's one of the best holidays, but there's a lot of stuff that you want to avoid.
Is there anything in the mid?
Secret Santa. Secret Santa. Because Secret Santa, like there's definitely a functionality for that. Like people are saying that we don't feel like buying each other gifts, but it's kind of a half measure. Like to go all the way, you should just say, hey, no gifts.
Yeah.
You know, but people are still trying to simplify the process, and it's just a feelings thing, but it ends up being a feelings thing anyways, because like I don't know what the fuck to get my sister-in-law.
Lottery ticket.
Lottery ticket?
Done.
Yeah, probably what I'm
Beautiful
going to go
thing.
with.
Scratch sauce.
Something in the bottom tier is Christmas carols for me. I hate Christmas carols. Nothing makes me more uncomfortable than somebody singing to me. It's like a flash mob, but at your house. Like, do not come to my house with Christmas carolers.
May I ask you this?
Yeah.
When's the last time that happened?
Never.
Okay.
But you could
But I'm with
imagine
ya.
if it did. I would not like that.
Yeah,
I
no.
would not like that.
I think
Yeah.
I think mistletoe should be in the low tier. It's like a forced unwanted kiss if I walk underneath some plant.
Yeah, it's
That the Me Too thing. I think.
yeah,
the
I think the Me
mistletoe
Too
went out.
thing probably took mistletoe because
Yeah.
you know a lot of times like people were hanging it at the office
done.
and shit like that, and then you're just like you're just attacking coworkers under the. No, we don't like that.
The longest 30 seconds of your life is when Christmas carolers are at your house.
That's what I'm saying.
It is.
I've never.
You've had it happen.
Yeah, they do it on the south side. People trying to. I did it as a little kid, make a little cash. It was not
Really?
Yeah.
They pay you to Christmas
yeah,
carol?
Yeah.
Now, if you're doing that, then that's okay. Another thing I don't like, selling the dream to your kids. I know you guys are going to probably zag on this, but I don't. My kid's pretty intelligent. He's 7 years old. Like, at some point, he's going to figure out that mathematically it's not possible for Santa to hit all these houses. And also, like, some people have gas fireplaces. They don't even have a flume. Like, how the fuck is he getting in there?
Listen, flu.
Flue, whatever.
Listen to this. I just had my chimney swept. $350. Thought I was being a responsible homeowner. Say you need a new liner. That'll be $7,000.
Really?
Yeah. So now we don't have
I
fire.
guess we're not doing fire.
Yeah.
That's a pretty simple calculation.
Yeah.
as
Come
far as
on
I'm
down, Santa Claus. But the idea of Santa's real. It's the idea of Santa.
It's the idea. I get it, and I like it. Like for kids
Spirit.
3 and 4, that's great. But when my kid's 7 and you're taking him to Santa at the country club, and he's sitting on the guy's lap, and he's like, "That's not Santa from last year."
Yeah.
Like it just becomes harder.
Well, he
you know what I'm
forces you to be a liar. It's
It
like,
forces you to lie to your kids.
yeah, it's messed up.
And like it's
I'll talk to him.
You talk to him.
Yeah. I'll swear to God and all this sort of stuff. I'll set him straight.
When do you give him the talk? At what age is it appropriate to give him the talk?
The Santa talk.
Not the sex talk, the Santa talk.
They find out on their own.
You think they find
they
out?
find
Yeah.
out from the older kids.
When I was a kid, I crept to the top of the stairs at like 1 a.m. and I looked down and I saw my parents wrapping the presents in Santa wrapping paper. It was
Yeah.
easy. You know what I mean? So stay vigilant if you're a parent and you're trying to sell this lie to your kids. But also as they approach a certain age, it's just going to get harder.
I told my friend John, who lived down the street, we were in Richmond. I told him I didn't think what was happening was really happening, and he kicked me. He kicked me right in the shin, like as hard as he could.
John wanted to believe.
Yeah.
I think it depends on the kid. Some
Yeah.
kids want to believe. Some kids want to figure it out.
Yeah.
Christmas cards. Hate them.
Oh, love Christmas
Unless
cards.
they're funny. Like, I guess as a consumer of Christmas cards, it's fun to like poke fun at the people that send me a laundry list of things that their 6-year-old kid did. Fucking big whoop. He's 6.
Hey,
You know what I mean? Like,
might swing by your mailbox on the way home tonight.
you got one of those?
No, I sent you.
But not with accomplishments. You didn't like, oh, my baby.
That was the implied joke. I didn't know. There are no
baby's-
words.
My preschooler's top of the preschool. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
Dude? It's a Montessori school,
Yeah.
first off. Like, it's not even like, oh, they went outside today.
I got a beef on this, dude.
You
with,
do?
Yeah.
with you.
Oh, with me.
I got it in the mail. Your thing.
You got mine?
Yeah, the origami. What's that?
Oh, that's more real
Well-
estate.
It's another thing for me to deal with.
Did you have to make it with your kid?
What do you think's gonna happen?
Oh, good. I'm glad.
Oh, yeah.
It brings your
That's why you
family
got to
closer
control
together.
the flow of mail in and out of your house.
Yeah.
You know?
I guess that's
That
on
should
me.
never make it to the kitchen table.
That's on me.
Yeah.
That's on me. When my
so-
wife sees Macon, the thing, she opens it up. She wants
So I-
to see what he has to say.
I guess we'll go top
2
tier.
hours later.
Top tier. I'm glad I didn't get an origami.
Hey.
Send me an origami?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I'm very careful of the mail going to your house.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Now I'm going to be careful how I text your landscaper.
Exactly. You need to be. Okay.
Well, the fuck 'em thing to anybody, not just the landscaper.
That's not the
tough one.
holiday
That doesn't
spirit.
play.
All right. Let's get into the holiday spirit. Maybe give out some winners. We already gave out some winners this week, but I've got some leans later in the week and talk about some of these great games, man, because there are great games. The top tier, I'm going to go with Christmas trees.
And we'll kick it off with the 6-6 Bills at the 8-4 Chiefs. Now or never for Buffalo.
Now, some said when I said this was the first game on the list, Nolan, Philly faithful over in the corner.
Picked the wrong one.
Yeah, Mr. Dak hater himself. He was like, why are we putting this top tier? Dallas and Philly. Well, I've already seen Dallas and Philly play. I also don't think for either of these teams is do or die. I think no matter who wins this game, there's a path for the other team to win the NFC East. And everything's out in front of the Eagles the same way. Dallas has got a tough stretch down the stretch here. Miami, and then they get Buffalo too. So like there are some games here that Dallas could lose. I also said this coming in this 3-game gauntlet, and I don't know if I feel this way the way that the Eagles got beat up by the Niners, because I think you're going to get their best game. I thought beat the Bills, you probably lose these 2 games. Like that was my initial inclination. I actually feel better about the Eagles getting Dallas Goedert back in the position they're in with their backs against the wall. The way they feel coming off of last week. It's not as bad as things seem in Philly, but this week you would think the sky is falling. That's why I think they have a better game. The reason the Bills and the Chiefs are the number 1 game for me is you get an absolute back against the wall situation. Like not like the vibe in Philly. It's like reality. If the Bills don't win this game, their chances go way down. They've got to win out, in my opinion. The Bills have a 15% chance to make the playoffs. Who would have thought that at this point in the year? And at the same time, I can honestly say the Bills are one of the best 5-10 teams in football. Like if I based it on teams I'd least want to see in the playoffs, especially with the quarterback situation around the AFC and around the league. So this is a tough task for the Bills and for the Chiefs. It kind of feels like a back against the wall game too, because all of a sudden you're down a game in an AFC conference race that you know how important that home field advantage is in Kansas City. I contend that if Kansas City gets home field advantage, it's the best in football relative to the expectation of what this team's going to put out week to week. Being at home, Kansas City in the playoffs gives them as good a chance as anybody to go to the bowl.
Does this make any sense that while it would be just as easy for another team to go down to Miami and play, being at home for Miami
is huge. You're right. The other way
might be,
and Detroit
just
the
as
same
important.
thing.
Yeah,
Detroit the same thing. Like relative to the importance, or relative to your expectation of what this team might do. Looking at the record and the whole thing, I think you bring up good points. Miami's been so good at home. You definitely don't want to see Tua out in cold weather. You definitely want to see Jared Goff outside. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But for the Chiefs, they're just so good at home and that defense. And I know they lost a couple weeks ago to the Eagles at home. I know they lost to start the season against the Lions at home. But I also believe in this team figuring out down the stretch. And I think that the Bills, as I mentioned, in burn the ships mode, you got to be ready for the QB run game. I think that's huge for the Bills. Like, what are we saving Josh Allen for? I would pull out all the stops on the other side of the ball. You know you're going to get Von Miller this weekend. It was up to the Bills because no charges have been filed. And so Brandon Beane said, this guy's playing. And for the Bills, I think the number 1 thing you got going for you is actually 2 things. It's number 1, the run game, which has actually been a formidable thing for them. And with Bolton out for a while now and unsure if he's going to play this week, the importance of Nick Bolton to that defense is huge. If he comes back, they're going to look fantastic. If he's not back, I'm worried about this Bills run game. So we'll see. I mean, since Bolton went down, they've allowed 6-2 a pop on the ground. That's bad. And that's way different than I thought they'd look like even with him down. So, like the second thing is you've got Cook who went down last week, the safety, and then you've got Edwards who spelled him. He's out there with his big arm brace. He's on the wrong side of 30. When I asked Ryan Clark this week at Inside the NFL, can they overcome this? He said, yeah, I like this dude. Like, I think he can play. Now, you throw that 4th down play where he looked like he was lost trying to catch a pop fly. He looked like me at softball out there in right field, or Matt. I didn't even use you, but it could have been any number of us. Not Aiden, because he was pretty good out there in the outfield, but that's how he looked in that one situation. I think he's going to be better than that. And I think that's the key. If you can run the football on these guys, things are going to open up for you. For the Chiefs, the offensive line issue. We've made a big deal about the drops. The drops have dissipated. Okay, it was really cold out there at Lambeau. The week before, they didn't have any drops. Maybe they had one. They might have had one the other night, but it wasn't a big consequential drop. Like, they'll get it right at wide receiver. I just don't want to see Sky Moore out there anymore. Like, like that play at the end of the game, whether it's on Patrick or on Sky Moore, what do you think? I mean, chances are there's at least a little bit where Sky Moore didn't run the right route and could have improved the timing and execution of that throw. And Sky Moore has been a guy who has not run great routes. So to me, Rashee Rice got to get the ball a lot. I mean, have you forgotten that Richie James exists? Tony, I know he's tantalizing with his talent, but he hasn't been dependable. You've got to start working guys in that you can trust. And to me, that starts with getting Sky Moore off the field. Brett Veach has failed Patrick Mahomes outside. That doesn't mean you should keep chasing this dragon with Sky Moore. You're in the middle of a playoff run. You got to put the people on the field that you can trust. And so I kind of wonder if they get into more 12 personnel. Like I had talked about maybe Zach Ertz as a Kansas City Chief, whoever it is, whether it's Noah Gray, who's already in the building, like morph into more of that power football team, because I think that's going to bode well for you. But the offensive line is my main concern. They're going to start Wanya Morris at left tackle. We said this, and Donovan Smith's hurt, but last week the red zone killed him. Kicking 2 field goals down there. A lot of people's like, what's wrong with the Chiefs offense? They've scored under 21 points 6-7 times this year. That's the most over Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes' tenure. But when you look at last week, they had 4 possessions between the start of the game and the end of the third quarter, real true possessions. And all of them went for a bunch of yards, went for a bunch of plays. They can do this, but they have to score touchdowns, and the offensive line failed them in the red zone. So I want to see the O-line play better, and that's a big key. And when you look at last week, week 6, when these two teams played, Kelsey had a great day. And it came down to the Bills just playing their stuff. They just didn't do anything to take them away. And I thought the Eagles, ironically, as bad as they've been in some situations defensively, did a good job getting the matchups and allocating the resources to where they could at least keep Kelsey down. This could be a big day if McDermott rolls out the same plan for Kelsey.
Buffalo 1-4 on the road this year. Patrick Mahomes has won 2/3 of his games this year, 95-1 passer rating, 10.4 yards per completion, 1 game-winning drive. Do you know who has those exact same statistics?
Jordan Love.
Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito.
New York.
And
Tommy D.
That's crazy. And they've been doing this with Jordan Love and Patrick Mahomes have the same stats and everything. And I totally understand why people think the Chiefs are wounded, but I keep saying this. Yes, the Chiefs are down, but so is the field. It's do the math. People asked me a couple weeks ago, are you worried about the Chiefs? I was not then. I'm a little bit more concerned now seeing the game the other night. But more than anything, I think they lost to a good football team, and I think they're figuring things out. And we got to stop holding them to a higher standard than the other teams in the AFC, because I think the Ravens could have trouble this weekend. The Jaguars just lost their starting quarterback, and the other team in the AFC that people are worried about is, of course, the Dolphins, who haven't beaten a single good team. So every team has a flaw in the AFC. All they've done is join the pack. So am I worried about them? Yeah, they've joined the pack of elite teams in the AFC, and they have as good a chance as anybody, but they need this game if they want to go on this run and secure home field advantage, which I think they can do.
And avoid a potentially dangerous opponent in the playoffs. You lose this game, and you could very likely be matched up with Buffalo round 1.
Crazy.
Yep.
It's in so many ways, these games are starting to be like playoff games. You talk about in the NBA, they have their play-in tournament and the whole thing. The play-in tournament starts right now or a week ago or 2 weeks ago in the NFL, and that's what I think makes the NFL such a bulletproof product, among other things that we discussed the other day.
The 10-2 Eagles are at the 9-3 Cowboys. Sunday night football on NBC. Dak Prescott, one of the storylines coming in, 317 passing yards he's averaging over the last 6, 20 touchdowns and 2 picks.
I mean, Backy, as a gambler, this is like a tailor-made buy low, sell high on both sides of the coin, because Dallas was fucking awesome offensively the other night, and that's the takeaway is Dak's the MVP, the whole thing, but they kind of sucked on defense. And, Philly, they're down, right? They lost 42-19 to San Francisco. That leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. This thing's been 3.5. It could be 4 by game time. I don't know where it is right now. I don't know. But if it's at 4 or 3, yeah, I'm going to bet the Eagles. I think I am.
Absolutely. I think taking the Eagles, and you don't see this in the NFL as much as you do in college, but they're gonna recharge the batteries, reset. It was a tough game last week, and now they're gonna come back and they're gonna be more focused than they normally are.
Exactly. Like, I think it's going to kick them into high gear. And I think also, like, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys and you harp on the Eagles in the middle of the field, the Dallas Cowboys have the same problems. They're not as pronounced, but in the middle of the field, in the middle of that defense in the run game and the linebackers, like with Dallas Goedert coming back, you can score points on this guy. Don't forget last year, Gardner Minshew went down there and scored 34 points on these guys in that stadium. And so, you're one of the best third down teams in the league. This is going to come down to third down because Dallas is right outside the top 10 defensively. Can you protect? Yeah, you can. You had all day last week. Jalen Hurts has to trust the guys. I think with Dallas back, he's going to trust Dallas. But last week, I thought he was really tentative on some stuff. I got to call it how I see it. I think the guy's a winner. I think he should be an MVP candidate and the whole thing. But as a passer right now, things aren't clicking for him. And especially on early downs, we've talked about this at times, like they haven't been great throwing the football. And I think when you talk to people that follow this team closely, like I do, but some of the people in the city who have radio shows and that sort of thing, one thing they're always harping on is where's the quick game? It's kind of all or nothing with this offense, and I think getting the ball out decisively, letting your playmakers make plays against this defense that really didn't look great last week can help you out. Now the real issue is and this is sneaky bad, and I don't know if you guys know this, but the Eagles have the worst third down defense in the league right now. So I think Desai playing cover one in those situations has really hurt them, and it kind of begs the question because we've kind of come to this conclusion without admitting. And I know Brian Johnson can improve, but he's not Shane Steichen. Like Shane's doing his thing in Indy, and I thought that offense last year looked like a juggernaut, and the pieces haven't changed that much, right? So something's changed schematically to slow Jalen down, to make him tentative, and to put them in these spots where, they haven't been great. But on defense, missing Gannon might be a big thing. I know we like the size adjustments and the whole thing, but if you're going to make adjustments but still play man on third down at too high of a clip, if you're going to get in those situations last week against San Francisco Niners and put your guys who aren't great at the second level in disadvantageous situations, like it's going to be a bad day. So we've kind of acknowledged that the scheme might have fallen off, offensively a little bit. What about the defense? And I got to see third down improve. I really do. And there is an organizational disconnect, and it's a rare crack in Howie's armor, in my opinion, is that like he usually nails pretty much every corner of the roster, but he's left this linebacker door open at the wrong times. Last year they were better there. Our Super Bowl year they were better there. If you're going to run Fangio's system, you got to have good linebackers. They do not have good linebackers, not currently. If Zach Cunningham gets back, that could help. I want to see them look different. If Shaq Leonard plays this Sunday, maybe that helps. But to me, that's more of a flyer. And, you've got Nakobe Dean coming back at some point this season. I don't know if that's going to solve all your problems, but in the run game, you have to be able to pound the ball on the Cowboys in the middle. And offensively, you got to fucking commit to running the football. That has been an issue. I think they're averaging 3.6 a pop since that Miami game. That looks nothing like what we thought the Eagles were going to look like at this point in the season.
A good sign for Philadelphia, John Hussey will be the head referee. The Eagles are 7-0 when he referees.
There we go.
That matters.
Including last year's Monday night game against the Cowboys in the NFC Championship.
That stuff matters.
And improve the fucking matchups outside. The first game when these guys played, you've got CeeDee Lamb on all the wrong people. Since that game, Brandon Cooks has come on. Ferguson had a great night, last week. He looks like a plus for them. That's an issue. So even if you take CeeDee Lamb away, these guys these role-playing guys out there. If you're going to put Slay on Lamb or somebody else on Lamb, these role-playing guys got to have big days in coverage.
Might want to try some mango chutney on Lamb every now and again. Eagles gave up 20 a game last year. This year is 24. Point differential for the 10-2 Eagles plus 41. For the boys, it's plus 168.
And that's what they've done. They jump teams at home. This is not a team you're going to jump at home.
No, offensively, I mean, San Francisco ran the ball. I mean, I'd like to know what their average rush was.
I mean, they pounded the rock, and a lot of it was the second level guys, like just not coming downhill. Like I don't think the defensive line is a problem against the run. Like for much of the season, you've been like, hey, they've been able to stop the run in light boxes. Like they're a formidable group, but you can really see in a run front what happens when the linebackers, just like Kansas City. Right? The Eagles and Kansas City, very similar outcomes last week. Big games for both those teams. Kicked 2 field goals early, both of them, and then couldn't get off the field because of a number of factors, but none bigger on both sides of the ball than linebacker. And so I think we'll see what happens there. I think they can survive this week with suboptimal linebacker play. But again, you're looking ahead to the teams you're going to have to play. If you get to the Super Bowl and you play the Dolphins, I don't know if I like that matchup anymore, the way the linebackers have played in Philly. I don't know if I like the matchup against San Francisco if you see them again. So you go down the list, you've got to rectify this issue. And part of it is scheme, but part of it is personnel.
6-6 Seahawks are at the 9-3 49ers. This is game 3 of that 4-game stretch for Seattle. Niners, Cowboys, Niners, Eagles. It was Thanksgiving night when Seattle lost 31-13 to San Francisco at home.
5 weeks ago, these guys were 81% to make the playoffs. They are now 28% to make the playoffs, okay? And you know, the teams that they're lumped into, and of course I'm talking about the Seahawks, in the NFC wildcard race, the Rams, the Vikings, the Packers, and then the Seahawks, okay? And they've all got 6 wins, but Seattle is last due to tiebreakers. Conference record, and very directly with the LA Rams, they can't have them in a head-to-head at the end of the season because they've been swept by the Rams. So if you look down the stretch, they've got San Francisco, they've got Philly, they're at Tennessee, they're at Pittsburgh, they're at Arizona. You think it might take 9-10 wins, okay? So if they can split these 2 games, they've got to feel really good about it, but I just don't see it. I have not seen enough of what I saw the other night. Like, I don't know that, you know, all of a sudden Geno and his wide receivers are on the same page because of what happened in Dallas. It's one game. I want to see it more. And another problem is they've been very bad, and we've harped on this all year in the red zone, okay? Against the Cowboys, they got a couple penalties that got them down there low. Like, they were good in the red zone. Is that a trend that continues? Even the cupcakes they see down the stretch, Tennessee and Pittsburgh, really good inside the 20-yard line. So none of these games with a team like Seattle, I feel like, are sure things. And the next 2 games are an absolute gauntlet for them. I know the lines moved a couple points in the Seahawks' direction. It made you think maybe something's up with the Niners. Maybe somebody knows something. But all I know right now is Armstead's down. And that's not enough of a difference when you're looking at a 13-point spread. And I think more than anything, if you're the Seahawks, we have lauded them repeatedly for finding a great bridge quarterback, drafting players high in the draft that have been able to contribute immediately. Woolen, Witherspoon, Mafe, guys like that. Like, they have hit on a lot of draft picks. They got 2 tackles. Like, you're set. You're set. Like, if you tell me that you're going to have statistically one of the best quarterbacks in the league over the past year and a half, depending on the metrics you look at, you've got 2 young, great starting tackles. You have 2 lockdown corners. You have a pass rusher. You go get Leonard Williams. Now, the Jamal Adams trade stinks to high heaven, but mostly we've been on their side, on Schneider and Carroll's side. But with all that having been said, you're looking up at the division that you're out of that race pretty much. I mean, you are out of that race, and San Francisco is a double-digit favorite late in the season against you. So how far away are you? And I know it's unfair because if they were in any other division, maybe you'd say they have a shot to win it, but not in this division. And San Francisco's not going anywhere for a while because Kyle Shanahan, all he's done is win, no matter what quarterback he's had. And Brock Purdy looks like the best one he's had yet, and he's young. So where do you think you're going? And that's my question to the Seahawks, and for Seahawks fans, like, what would you rather have? And I'm talking directly to you guys that's in the take. Would you rather slide into the playoffs and get blown out in the wild card round, or would you rather just crater down the stretch here spectacularly and have a chance to draft a Michael Penix or draft a Jaden Daniels.
That's geographically very pleasing.
It is pleasing. It's like Jaden Daniels down in New Orleans. I think there's a similar situation there where it's like, yeah, you could slide in the playoffs, but do you really call him for Carr and call him for his head? They want a quarterback next draft. Seahawks fans, how you feeling? Do you really think your team's pretty good?
Knowing what you know now, would you have done something differently at quarterback if you're going to be a 6-8 team here in 2 weeks?
No, I knowing what I know now, maybe, but I don't think they were in the position to draft last year, so you kind of had to ride this out. And it's not the worst thing in the world if Geno comes back next year and he helps. You're pretty far away, and this was the illuminating stat about Geno as a starter. And I think he's been some of the top-end throws that he makes. Like the other night, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks on the planet.
Yeah.
But then you watch this offense, the sum of the parts, some games, and you're like, it's just not there, and they're not on the same page and the whole thing. But the last 2 years, Geno as a starter, and this is pretty interesting. Where do you think he ranks playing indoors? This is off passer rating.
7th.
Okay, he ranks Geno as a starter the last 2 years behind Mahomes and Burrow. He's third.
Wow.
Indoors, okay? And you cash him outside, and you get 28th in the league.
Oh, I'll just say 27th.
28th in the league. No, 27th is Jared Goff,
Oh, well,
and he's playing in 30-mile-per-hour winds this weekend.
over.
So I felt
You
like
wouldn't think that with Geno coming from, Western Michigan or
played at West Virginia, he played in New York.
Yep.
Some guys just aren't as good outside, and I don't know what it is about his game that doesn't carry. But it's not like this is a different setup from the Thanksgiving game. He was outdoors there. He plays in Seattle at home in cold weather. I'm not saying he's more liable to get blown out this weekend, but it is an interesting stat that we found this week. And I mean, I think for the Niners, all I'll say is this: like just be in the same offense you were in on Thanksgiving. Exploit matchups, dictate personnel, and go. They were dominant. I mean, the beginning of that game, they looked as dominant as they looked all season long. I mean, in the first half of that game, they were doing whatever they wanted. And I expect to see a lot of the same stuff. And the bring Ertz home thing, we talked about it earlier. Maybe he's a guy for all the reasons we talked about that is suiting up for the 49ers in 10 days when they play next week. But I don't think there's much to analyze with the Niners. That's the thing about how good they are right now. I get up here every week and be like, Trent Williams is a Hall of Famer. George Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, all these guys, Christian McCaffrey. It's a yactory, the whole thing. Everything that applies to breaking down San Francisco last week applies again to Seattle, and they have some of the same problems that the Eagles have.
You watch all the tape. Do we still love Devin Witherspoon?
I love him.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, he's not my defensive rookie of the year. You know who is?
Yeah.
Hopefully, my wallet is hoping that it's Jalen Carter.
I think this game for the Niners is bigger than you think as far as moving forward and seeing. We know they're a great team. Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. What I think you want to see is they're going to win this game, but is it going to be tight? Is it going to be a blowout? Them coming off the biggest win of the season out of the whole entire year.
It's a letdown spot.
It's a total letdown. So you see where they are in their mental toughness. And I think this game tells a lot moving forward for playoffs.
And also, like when you're talking about the Eagles against the Niners in the playoffs, or you're talking about Seattle seeing them 3 weeks later, like in the NFL, not every game plays out the same way when you see a team twice. There's a perfect example of that. I talked about this game before my last year. We're 4-6. We walk out of the Superdome. It was so bad. People were like, Sean Payton's running up the score. We lost by 40 points. We go see them in the playoffs. It is a dogfight, and we really should have won that game, in my opinion, but I'm not going to do the San Francisco thing where I say we should have won that game. They beat us fair and square, but it was a game where we thought we had opportunities to win. And so whether it's the Eagles and the Niners in the playoffs or Seattle and San Francisco a couple weeks apart, like things can change. And I don't expect them to change in this matchup because I think they're well coached, and I think they got leaders on that team that all week are probably saying the same thing, which is we can't roll the ball out there this weekend. We got to have that same attacking mentality. You got to wear black again because it will be Seattle's funeral in a week or two if they continue to play the way they played against good teams.
I like Seattle in the points.
You like Seattle?
I wouldn't drop a bag on it.
No.
I'd put a few coins on it.
A few coins on Seattle.
The 6-6 Rams, winners of 3 straight, are at the Mark Andrews list. Baltimore Ravens.
Did you give out the
9-3.
Rams?
I did. I thought it was a little disrespectful. 7.5 points.
It's a lot of points. You can look at it one of two ways. I bet it this week because I look at this. We're going to judge. I don't know what Vegas is doing here. Is Vegas hanging this big line, expecting everybody to get on the Rams because we're like, that's too many points? The reaction that we had naturally. Sometimes I don't know how the public's thinking. Am I the public and I don't know it? But there's also another layer to this, which is like Baltimore has blown good teams out at home. Whether it was Seattle or Baltimore, they weren't fucking close. There were single-digit spreads. They beat both of them by like 30 points. So is the public more aware of that? You know, is the public just going to say, hey, Baltimore is going to crush these guys, right? Nobody was watching the Rams and the Browns. Nobody's been watching the Rams. They've been quietly playing good ball. So I'm on the Rams. I take the other side of that.
Almost 3/4 of the bets on Baltimore, and the money is flipped.
Exactly. So I kind of like that. There's like a plus 50 edge on tickets to money with the Rams. So and on top of that, you might look at it and say Harbaugh 10-6 off a bye, 9-7 against the spread in those spots. But Lamar's numbers are not great as a big favorite. They're just not. I mean, in those tight ball games, he covers. But some of the figures I saw this week were really illuminating. And I think on top of that, the Ravens have pivoted, and it's impressive. If you watched them 2 weeks ago, the way their scheme changed at the drop of a hat with the loss of Mark Andrews. Now, you lost them against Cincinnati. You had all week to get ready. It's not like they lost them in the first quarter, but Todd Monken did a great job of turning this thing into an offense that emphasizes speed. And how you do that? You give the ball to Keaton Mitchell more. It's a lot of gun run. It's a lot of numbers games to either side, whether it's the run or the pass. They're all options. It's kind of like a college offense. You got Isaiah Likely split out. You get the ball to him quick. Watch him eat up 20 yards like that because he can run. And all that's well and good. But when I watched, when they had those kind of traditional tight end looks in their run game against the Chargers, meaning tight end attached, like an 11 or 12 look or 22 look, whatever that is. If it was Pat Ricard at the Y, or if it was Kohler at the Y, or they had an ace set with two tight ends, they did not run the ball well. Okay, they ran the ball for like 190 yards on these guys, but by my count, and this is an official count, I was just charting these runs, they were about 3 yards a pop in those situations, including like their first 18 runs. I think they went for like their first 8 runs in those sets, they went for like 15 yards. So they really had a hard time making the adjustment in these formations.
Well, and Zay Flowers had the one for 37, which skews the rushing number.
And it skews the rushing numbers. They had another one. I think Mitchell went for like 25 on one. And so the point I'm making is, I do think there's a bigger adjustment than people realize without Mark Andrews. And I don't think it's just in the passing game. I honestly think they can pivot more easily in the passing game. But the problem you have with a Mark Andrews, he's not quite a personnel mindfuck kind of guy where you can totally look the same in every formation out of different personnels and not know what they're throwing at you. But when he's in line and you're a backer or you're a safety who's down and you have to think about the possibility that this guy's going to be blocking you in the run game, it is going to take you off your coverage a little bit. And conversely, if you're worried about coverage, they're going to be able to run the ball. You're going to be a little bit softer in some situations. And so I don't think of Likely as an ass kicker of a blocker. They're not going to have him in line a bunch. Ricard, they like him, but he's a fullback. And then Kohler's a guy, right? No disrespect. The point is their run game might change a little bit. And so I'm interested to see, does Gus Edwards get the ball more this week? It was a lot of Keaton Mitchell last week. How are they going to get the Rams out of that penny package? When Philly played them, how can you get them to try to play you big? And then you go from there in the run game. Because the Rams want to live there. Their backers aren't great in pass coverage. But if you can get them out of those situations, you can start to really pound the ball in the run game and pick them apart if they're in some of their bigger sets defensively.
I'm familiar with the nickel and the dime. This is the first I'm hearing of the penny package.
Yeah, it's a little bit different.
Nice nomenclature.
It's a little bit different. So, the look you're going to get in the penny package is you're going to have like 3 guys down. You're going to have 2 overhang backer types. And then in the middle of the field, you're going to have your kind of smaller nickel backer. And then you're going to have a real backer. And a lot of times you're going to get that extra guy in the box, right? He's going to walk down.
Think of like, if you understand nickel, Typically think 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 DBs. Penny is you're going to trade out a linebacker for another defensive
Yep.
lineman. And then you're still playing with 5 DBs.
So when you watch the Rams, like they don't want to live in that thing in the run game, and they probably don't want to have to deal with those linebackers in pass coverage. So for Todd Monken, it's just trying to react to what they're trying to stay in, what they're trying to stay out of, and force them to get into those bad matchups. And so whether it's in the run or the pass, I think it's going to be interesting to see this chess match when it comes to Todd Monken. He's already made a big adjustment. How are these adjustments going to look with a whole week? Like they're coming off a bye. What are they going to be able to scheme up and dream up? Will it show in the red zone? I don't think they were very good in the red zone against the Chargers for all the yards they racked up. They couldn't get in the end zone. And I think Lamar, if you're watching him closely, is having trouble throwing the deep ball this year. With accuracy, with efficiency, the numbers back that up. If you're the Rams, challenge him to throw that deep ball. You know, you're going to have to commit a lot of bodies in the run game. Challenge him to throw that deep ball. Ronnie Stanley's struggling. Okay, that's something that's been quietly going on in Baltimore. He's a great tackle, but I think he's banged up. If you're Aaron Donald, you need to get your ass over there at right end and rush Ronnie Stanley, because when you look at like the Rams rush package, there's really only a guy or two that can scare you, and one of them is Aaron Donald every time, and somebody else might win a rush here and there, but it's Aaron. So find the best matchup for him. And I think, like, especially on that side, John Simpson struggles to sort games. Like, run a bunch of games, throw a lot of shit at those two guys, and you should not walk out of that stadium without Aaron Donald lining up at right end 5 times, at least, because it's something they got to think about. And for the Rams offensively, it's the health of these wide receivers. I don't know how Cooper Kupp's feeling this week, and Puka had the injury last week. If they're healthy, Stafford can have a good day. Because another thing is the Ravens, we went through the list of quarterbacks they'd played up until a couple weeks ago. It was like an abhorrent list. This week, you see the Rams, Matt Stafford could be one of the best guys you've seen, hands down. And this might be one of the best offenses you've played against one of the best play callers you've played. So for McDonald and that defensive group, you've got to harass Stafford, and it can't all be manufacturing pressure. Guys have got to win one-on-ones. And if you looked at the Rams against Cleveland, they came out, they had a little trouble running the ball at times, but as the game went on, they got on edges, whether it was jet sweeps or tosses. They came out there and ran the toss until Baltimore could stop it, and then they ran the ball inside late in the game. Not Baltimore, Cleveland. And so the point is, if you look at Baltimore's explosive play cut up, which I looked at in the run game, runs over 10 yards, a lot of those are on the perimeter. I would be living there if I were the Rams. I would try to stress that area of the field if I was the Rams in the run game. I do like this as a backdoor cover opportunity, and I kind of like it as an opportunity for the Rams to win this game.
Yeah, 6-6. They need it.
They need it bad, dude. And they got a great football coach and a quarterback who, when I talked to Jay Cutler before the season, I said, how long do you think Matt Stafford can play? Because my biggest concern about him is always durability. He said with an arm like that, the guy can play into his 40s. And he's shown that this year. Like, his arm looks great. He looks like Matt Stafford. This is a tough spot for the Ravens.
The game that's been messing with Chris's mind all week, 7-5 Colts at 6-6 Bengals. 4 of Cincy's last 5 games are against teams currently playing a backup quarterback. Browning became the 10th player in the Super Bowl era to throw for 350 or more and complete at least 85% of his passes.
And I know I asked this question the other day. Can the Bengals you were here. Can the Bengals be the Eagles? Probably not. 2017 Eagles, where you have a talented roster around you. You have, like a good coordinator on defense. You have a good coordinator on offense. You can scheme people up. Browning, he's decisive. He's got a noodle arm a little bit, like most ironic name in the NFL. Like, more like fucking
Noodle.
I don't know, BB gun or who makes a Red Rider? More like Red Rider, not Browning. But and that's the thing for the Colts is the ball takes forever to get there. And last week I did not like Jacksonville's game plan. Like, they played too much man. There were situations where they gave him easy options in the passing game. They never got him into 3rd and long. Like, when they got in 3rd and long, you can tell they're going to be conservative. They don't fully trust this guy. You saw the shot down the left sideline. I think it was like on 3rd and medium to Jamar Chase. You had to take that shot to keep them honest. And that ball took a while to get there. Jacksonville's all fucked up outside. If they can get them into 3rd and long, I think they're going to have success. And I think Jacksonville's pass rush group looked totally out of sorts this past week. I mean, the ball is coming out quick and everything. They didn't help themselves on 1st and 2nd down by getting to 3rd and longs where they have opportunities to tee off on him, and then they didn't rush together. And I think another thing I'd like to see is Jake Browning have to deal with the blitz a little bit. This isn't Gus Bradley's MO. He's more liable to sit back there and play 3 and just kind of like hang out and let the rushers rush. But he also has to understand the assignment, which is this kid has not seen pressure at the NFL level with consistency over the past couple of weeks. And I want to find out, I want to find out what he's got. And so I guess the background on this game is Sunday night, I'm in chase mode. This is where I make all my bets, like 1 a.m. It's not advisable. I'm like, fuck it. A lot can change for the Bengals. They might look awful tomorrow night. This line might balloon to 4. I'm gonna bet the Colts money line.
Yep.
At like north of -200, and wake up Monday, watch the game, and Cincinnati looks really fucking good. So obviously this game's like a pick 'em now, and I'm pot committed, and I have been talking myself into the Colts, and this is why I like the Colts. Okay, now I'm biased because I have a lot of money on the Colts, but Grover Stewart's back, for fuck's sake. He's one of my favorite players in the league. He's one of the most underrated players in the league. He was out for a while with a PED suspension, I think, and it felt like an eternity. And over this span, the Colts have gone on a streak, and the D-line has played better. Now, they played some shitty teams, okay? So this is going to be a big opportunity for them to prove that they belong. But when I looked at them against the Titans last week, after I watched the Jacksonville tape, and I watched them one after the other, Jacksonville's pass rush unit does not look as good as the Colts pass rush unit right now. You take Josh Allen off the field, it is a fucking average burger out there for Jacksonville. And at least Indy has a couple guys who are getting home right now in Buckner, in Kwity Paye, who had one of the best weeks of his year, in Grover Stewart, who's going to be back, and he's a great run stopper. They've got guys that rush together, and I think that's going to be the assignment this week. Harass this guy, and you can win this game. And I also like Shane Steichen against Anarumo. Two great coordinators. There's not as much tape on Shane as a head coach. This is the time of the season that you start trying some concepts that you've been saving for big moments. I'm excited about this game. And it's on the road. And Indy's got some good road wins. You got to look back to September, but they beat Baltimore on the road. They beat Houston on the road. Like, Indy has done this. And Gardner Minshew looks up to the task. And it's also Gardner Minshew's best offensive scheme he's been in. It really is. I can confidently say that. So all the numbers about Gardner Minshew doesn't cover all that stuff. 8 weeks ago, you looked at those numbers, you were like, I'm never betting the Colts. But they have looked different, and he has looked different at times.
Colts have won 4 in a row. Bucks are 5-7. They're at the Falcons 6-6. This is the last of our top tier. Are we in the Christmas tree tier? Is that where we are? Is that where
I think we're just finishing up the Christmas tree tier, and this is going to be a quick one. There's only space on the tree for one more ornament.
Bijan said this is the Super Bowl.
That's it, dude. Bijan said it's the Super Bowl. You heard it on this show. That tells you the magnitude of this game. And there's games like this all over the league this weekend, but the Bucs' chances of the playoffs right now are around 27%. Now, if they win this weekend, that goes up in a big way. Like, plug that in right there. If they win this weekend, it goes up to almost 50%. Okay? And conversely for the Falcons, I think right now they're between 50 and 80%. If they win this game, I think this jumps up north of 80% for them. They're 63% right now. The numbers confirm it. If they win, they're 84% to make the playoffs.
Chris Kornacki over here.
Bro, like, this is a monumental game, dude. And in this division, all one of these teams has to do is win a couple games in a row, and you're going to be like, see you later, Saints. See you later, Panthers. See you later, Bucks. And the Bucks have just hung around. This is their last gasp. And if I'm the Falcons, we got to run the football. And we got to get on these guys' edges. And we got to burn the ships when it comes to Bijan Robinson and that rookie wall. We are past that point. Kyle Pitts' health is concerning to me. Like, when you watch him run routes right now, he literally cannot push off his right side. He's got a knee or something like that. You can see it on the field. So, like, I think the guys outside have to step up big time. Big time. And this secondary in Tampa, not very good. So if you can get on the edge and run the football, when you saw these guys play the first time, I was on the wrong side of that game. And the only reason that Tampa was in it is because Desmond Ridder turned the ball over a number of times, down at the pylon, the whole thing. Limit the turnovers, run the football. I feel like you can get out of here with a win. And it's time for the Falcons to realize their potential as a team because this defense is starting to play well statistically. I thought they were on death's door when Josh Dobbs kicked down the door and moved the ball up and down the field on him. Jaron Hall was moving the ball that day. But since then, they've gotten some things together. Ibakite has been balling. This guy's got like 6-7 sacks the last 6 weeks of the season. I look for him to have a big day. And this is why you bring in guys like Jesse Bates. You know, guys that have played in Super Bowls, guys that have been in big situations. He will not feel the pressure of this situation. He will educate these guys on what it takes all week, and he'll be that guy out on the field, your field general who's made some of the biggest plays for you this year. He's got to take the ball off of Baker Mayfield at least once because that's been a thing when they've created those big turnovers, whether it was against Bryce Young or whether it was against the Saints a week ago. Those turnovers mean wins for them. So go get the ball and don't give it away if you're Desmond Ridder.
Only one game against a team with the winning record rest of the way for Atlanta.
It really lines up for him.
Next tier, Secret Santa. Secret Santa tier is led by Texans 7-5 at Jets 4-8. C.J. Stroud calling an ambulance, but not for me. I don't have Tank Dell. I got Nico Collins 9 for 191 and a touchdown.
And you got Brevin Jordan, who's an interesting player to me because he wears a weird number, and you're like, are you a wide receiver? Like, what are you? You're a tight end. You're a tight end.
Justin Watson situation.
Yeah, like you can use that guy in a lot of different ways. So Schultz is probably up. He's been in and out of the injury report. Missed last week. Like I want to see how you adjust to Tank Dell being out, and I think Slowick's done a great job, akin to the way that Todd Monken has done a great job in Baltimore this year and then has hit the curveball with a personnel change. This isn't quite that drastic because I think Mark Andrews is like Lamar's best friend in football sense. Mm-hmm. Tank Dell's that guy for CJ, but I think there's enough guys out there. Nico Collins has stepped up, as you mentioned, Noah Brown, Brevin Jordan. Don't forget about the fact that they have Robert Woods, and I know that hasn't been like the best return on investment so far on the field, but he's a veteran who's going to help them get through this situation. I think the biggest story here is obviously Zach Wilson finding Kuntz. If Zach Wilson can find his Kuntz, maybe it's a game, but does it really change much? The Texans can stop the run. It's a bad matchup offensively for the Jets. And a sleeper storyline here is does Will Anderson enter the Defensive Rookie of the Year conversation? His stats are not eye-popping. What's he got, 5 sacks, 6 sacks, something like that?
It'd be a big win for the tape watchers.
For the tape watchers, exactly, because the stats don't always tell the whole story. This guy's been balling out and making some big plays and affecting things in the run game, in the pass game. I think he's a really smart player. And I think that's the best compliment I can give him is he seems to play like a 28-year-old guy. And they've got a couple rookies like that. And so credit to Nick Caserio, who, by the way, you've seen some of these New England make the playoff.
There's a path.
I mean, I can't believe people are spending a couple hours on this stuff and formulating these graphics and doing these scenarios. But, like, some teams have to lose 5 games in a row. One of them is the Houston Texans. Nick Caserio, who came from New England, could have a hand in eliminating his old team, early in December this weekend. And so I fully expect for them to go up here. And I know they have a rookie quarterback and a rookie head coach, but I expect for them to grow up a little bit more as a team and take this next step and win a tough game on the road. C.J. Stroud, another thing. It's a weekend where you're talking about weather. We talked about Geno. We talked about all these people. He's not one of these Pac-12 guys. He's not one of these SEC guys. I got in the league with some guys that when they got drafted in Philly, it was like the first thing they said was like, holy shit, I've never played in a game lower than 50 degrees. That's a real thing for some guys. And for quarterbacks, it really matters. This guy played in the Big Ten. He's played in inclement weather. He should shine this time of year, even for being a rookie. He's shown us throughout the year that he's anything but it between the ears. And the same thing with D'Amico as a head coach. There's been some bumps in the road, but these guys are conducting themselves on the field like a veteran group, and it bleeds into every situation, especially defensively. That group just plays older than it is.
And while Stroud is a lock for Offensive Rookie of the Year, we do have a 3-horse race for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Jalen Carter -200, Witherspoon +300, Willie Anderson +400.
So I was a little bit worried about Witherspoon there for a second because his odds got kind of close in Jalen's, but seeing that number move back to Jalen, I feel pretty good about it. And the Eagles' defense isn't great, but can you imagine this week if he goes out and has a sack and a half or beats Zach Martin up? You know, like
as long as he plays the next 5 games, he's got it.
God, I'm hopeful. My family's hopeful.
Hey, my guy Jared Goff has only played in the state of California or inside Ford Field. He and the Lions are 3-point favorites in Chicago.
You're shitting me.
Yeah, 3 points.
This is where it starts to show up. I like the Bears here. I like a money line. I'm jumping out of the gym for this group. I don't think it's fake what happened a couple weeks ago.
I had the total at 40, I believe. It now looks like it's 43. That's quite a jump in
Yeah, but your
2 days.
total's 40. You're locked into 40, and I
40.
still think it goes under there. I got it at 44.
Backy's guy Laporta just went over 100 for the first time last week.
Laporta's great. I just can't imagine where's Laporta from?
University of Iowa.
Yeah.
Tight end you.
So listen, I just can't imagine a scenario where I think
Hawkeyes.
if you're worried about points in this game, I think I'm more worried about Detroit because they're just not like this isn't. Yeah, they can run the fuck out of the football, but they're going to have to drop back and pass it because Chicago.
We've got a sun god running around out there.
Well, Chicago's pretty fucking good stopping the run. Like that's one thing they've been able to hang their hats on. Like Eberflus has got this group, to his credit, playing a lot better now. He's probably not going to keep his job, but he has definitely rounded the corner with this defense a little bit. You watched him play Minnesota. I was really complimentary of every level of that defense. And, you know, a guy like Jalen Johnson's got to get a turnover this weekend because Jared Goff, we talked about it, 28th passer rating playing outside, 27th or 28th, one of the two. There's 30-mile-per-hour gusts is something I read here.
Gus.
It's just gusts.
Coming off
Well, it's 18 if it's not gusting, and the rain's coming down.
coming off Lake Michigan,
And
man.
you
You don't
coming-
you don't know anything about that, man.
That Lake Michigan
No.
win.
I have
dude.
spent nights on
No.
the shores of Lake Michigan.
Not like that, man.
This is gonna
Not
be
like that.
this is gonna be a shit show, and I love it. Detroit,
No Frank Ragnow.
no Frank Ragnow. They're off a bye, right? Like Chicago's off a bye, so they got a rest advantage over Detroit. And I think also that game that Detroit played in Sunday, you might not think of it as a physical game. You played it inside, you played it on the road. New Orleans is a tough place to play, and that defense had to stay on the entire game. You know, like there's something about when you're in 2-minute mode, like almost the whole game. Even letting up those 3 touchdowns, going out of the wire, 27-21, the bad snap, like that game was in hand for a long time, and they were throwing the ball, and that really tires the defense out. You know, seeing that many passing plays, the stress of that situation, and so for the Bears, you got that rest advantage. You got to play more physical. And the Bears playing cover 3, cover 1, cover 2, stick to the 1 and 2 because those are weaknesses, relatively speaking, of Goff. And I think Justin Fields has been good since he got back. I'm a Justin Fields guy, whether it's in Chicago next year or somewhere else. He's saying all the right things in the media. Like people are asking him, "Are you going to be the quarterback of the future?" You know, he's basically giving it to God. He's saying it's in God's hands, and you know, like he's saying all the right things. He's not throwing anybody under the bus. I really admire the kid. This would be a huge win for him. Be a huge win for him. And he's been good under pressure. He's had more opportunities under pressure than anybody. If you watch that Minnesota game, he's off the spot the whole game. They're not going to be able to do that, though. The Detroit Lions are going to be able to do that, though, and that's what you have to hang your hat on. And so for the Lions, with Aleem McNeil out, they're going to be able to run the rock. Hopefully, if you're a Bears fan, you expect them to run the rock. Somebody's got to win. Keep saying this. Somebody's got to create a turnover on that Detroit defense. Somebody's got to win. The way Aiden at the end of the game closed that thing out, that hasn't happened a lot for Detroit this year. And for rushers in games like this, a lot of people ask me, is the advantage to the O-line or the D-line? I think it just depends on what your game is like. If you're one of these guys that, you know, gets on an edge on one foot and you're Robert Quinn and you're sideways 6 inches off the ground trying to chop club somebody every play, you are going to have trouble, especially in this footing. I mean, this is a tough – this stadium, I can remember, and I don't know what they've done to the grass since this, but me and Greg Olson We're laughing about this recently, where I was in a 6 technique and he's blocking me, and we're both dug into the ground, and we'd both slide whichever direction, wherever we were on the field. Like there'd be patches that were less stable, and I'd be anchoring this guy, and Greg wasn't fucking George Kittle out there. Like I can handle Greg in the run game, but I was sliding backwards. And, you have to worry about this surface. And if you're a rusher, have the right cleats on, have the right game plan, play with power, make these guys have to anchor and set their feet into the ground. Like this is a power rusher game.
That is a Chicago Park District.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Thing.
Yeah.
That grass is a thing.
Yeah. Is it just bad grass everywhere in Chicago?
It's like Notre Dame out there.
Yeah. What are you trying to say about?
Yeah,
what are you trying to say about the center of the college football universe?
The Chargers' 6 points against New England were their fewest in a win in franchise history. Previous low came in a 7-6 victory over the Patriots 1963. Chargers host God's team, 4:25 on CBS.
I think I'm going to be on the Broncos here. Is that public? Is that stupid?
No, it's this studio, which all this studio does is win. Steve took them.
Yeah.
Sounded good to me.
And Reed likes him, and every time we've bet the Broncos, I feel like it's worked out pretty well. So you got to feel like you can run the ball. You have to at least believe that. You have to come in with that attitude. I think if you can set up the play action, we talk about the Chargers and their defense, and they have a lot of weaknesses, but one of them that I would be looking at would be those linebackers in coverage. So if you can take advantage of that, get these guys taking a step or two downfield, having them think about things, like then it opens up what Russell's going to do well, which is the dink and dunk over the top of the second level of the defense. In that intermediate area, I think that's where the yardage can be had for Russell. Josh Palmer could be back for Justin Herbert. And I think the receiver room situation's made it difficult for him. I'm not going to sit here and put this year on Justin Herbert. Not that that's a hot take at this point. You have your people dug in on quarterbacks. I'm not dug in on Justin Herbert. I think he has the potential to be an elite quarterback in this league for years to come. If you don't believe that, I don't know what you're looking at. This offense is not great. They can't run the ball. You've got Brandon Staley talking about we're going to make a switch at running back. Eckler, since he got back, he's like bottom 3 in yards an attempt. He's in the bottom 10 in yards after contact. He's got drops. He has fumbles. He has not been the same. And when I looked at this run game early in the season, I don't think they can really change anything. So even if Kelly's getting more touches, I think the personnel decisions that they made up front and some of the scheme, and especially tight ends not being involved in the blocking in the run blocking game, like I just don't see them making a switch by shaking things up. Now, Eckler's vision wasn't great last week. There's some big holes that he just didn't run into. But I don't think that's going to do it alone, and I don't think Josh Palmer comeback's going to do it alone. And Keenan Allen, you've got Pat Surtain. So I don't know who wins that matchup, but at least you feel like you can do something to take him away without having to employ all these bodies. I like the resource allocation for the Denver defense. I really do. And I think for Russell, it's all about if you can get that run game going, you can win this game. I want to shout out Khalil Mack. Guy's got 15 sacks. I mean, most people aren't even watching him play. We talk about all these Defensive Player of the Year candidates. He's up there with all of them. And he's already won the award in his career. And it feels like many moons ago. But I love seeing a guy who people left for dead relative to his standard of play coming back and having a year like this, especially because he's a friend of the program, and we love Khalil Mack. So big shout out to him. When everything is going wrong around you, to still get buckets, that is impressive to me. So shouting him out. And finally, talking about Russ and the future. It's never too early to look into the future, Reed. Next year, are you drafting a quarterback? Because you can't get out of this contract next year. From what I understand, it's probably one more year, and then you can actually.
Yeah, 2025, we'd have to pay some money. 2026, we'd be able to skate out. Okay.
So do you stick with this thing for one more year?
I think
Broncos
it depends.
fan.
It depends on who is around, because there's some other positions that we need help with. But if there is a quarterback, at the top there's going to be a rush, right, of quarterbacks at the draft. But if there's a quarterback who because it is deep this year. So if there's a guy there that you can stash,
Do the bridge thing
and hang out, exactly.
Do the bridge thing. I know they have other needs and all that, but like in a year and a half, 2 years, if you don't have a quarterback and Russ plays you into the middle of the draft again, you might not have this opportunity again. And so
Penix and Daniels might be there middle of the first.
You win this game.
Which would be perfect.
You win this game. Let's go try to go to the playoffs. If in 2 weeks this thing isn't looking as rosy for these guys, like these are conversations that people need to have. I mean, these are conversations that they're already having in this building, and they probably know what they're doing. But this can go a couple different ways, and it's not dissimilar to the conversation with Geno. It's different, but it's all right. We have a guy, but look in the division. Do we feel good about now? They beat Kansas City once this year with Russell Wilson and the whole thing. But do you feel good about winning this division year in and year out with Russell Wilson aging as your quarterback? Like at some point you have to think about the big picture too.
Like that was a win, but it was our first in 17 against that team. So no, you don't have confidence that he can do that in each game against Kansas City.
Is Russell Wilson the guy to mentor that new quarterback?
That I don't know.
Like is there an importance on that? I mean, Aaron Rodgers wasn't huge on doing it with Love.
I think he'll say the right things if they draft somebody, but I can't see Russell being very happy about it. I don't think Russell's aware of his situation.
No, but I can see Sean Payton being very good at this is what Russell does well. This is what you need to watch for.
I got a new girl.
Yeah.
Her name's Quinn Ewers, 3rd round. I can get you Quinn Ewers in the 3rd round if you'd like. Like that better.
Be all right.
I mean, and you probably where you draft a guy, if you draft somebody in the 3rd round or something, that shouldn't hurt his ego. But if you do pick somebody in the top 10 or top 15, like there's going to be a situation. How well would he handle it? I don't know. I don't want to get too far down the road, but it's an interesting question to ask a Broncos fan is like, do you realize that as exciting as the last 5 weeks has been, y'all aren't going to be there with this setup?
Yeah.
And so
it definitely feels closer to like this year as almost the only opportunity versus like the next 4 or 5.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I just hate for you to be in a situation, and you got a new owner, who knows what he thinks, but in a year, I'd hate for you to be in a situation where you're like, okay, now we absolutely can't draft a quarterback, and Russell's 35 or 36.
Right.
And he fell off a cliff.
Yeah, he has said he wanted to play till 40, so taking one like in the 1st or 2nd round probably will hurt, his thinking. But he'll have to put up with it.
Yeah, or play great.
Yeah.
So anyways, I like the Broncos here.
I'd like to podcast until 90. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that'd be good. Okay.
6-6 Vikings are at the 5-7 Raiders. Injury designations for Max Crosby and Colton Miller both sat out Wednesday practice.
This is a big deal, and before I heard Jefferson was back, and I figured Jefferson might be back, but really for me, I was kind of falling for the Josh Dobbs might not be the starting quarterback this week stuff. And I threw him in a money line parlay. I kind of like the Raiders in this spot, but on paper, it's not looking good.
No.
Because Aiden O'Connell's not real good against the blitz. He's outside the top 32. The Vikings are going to heat him up. The only answer I could have for the Vikings and their aggressive nature is have quick, easy options to get Devontae the ball, because they don't really have somebody in coverage who I feel good about matching up with Devontae Adams. Get the ball out quick, find him, commit to the running game, because you can run the ball in these guys. And Josh Jacobs, the last time they played Kansas City, they came out and ran the ball. And they also took advantage of matchups when they knew they were in man. And I thought this young offensive coordinator did a great job. So I'm really excited to see what this yields. I think in general, this is just a really exciting opportunity for Antonio Pierce. If you can win this game, I feel like this job is almost yours, because this is one of those games where the two teams are pretty evenly matched. You can stay in the playoff race, which sounds crazy. If you can orchestrate an effort where Aiden O'Connell's weaknesses are hidden against this defense from a game plan perspective, and if Max Crosby, and that's all you got really on defense, if you can come out of this thing with a win, I feel like you got to credit the coach and you got to credit the staff. So Raiders catching 3. I'm not going to do anything else with this game other than the parlay I threw in.
And let's not underplay the nephew-uncle battle between Aiden and Kevin O'Connell.
Exactly. I like to This is one of my favorite moments this year. We had Kevin O'Connell on the show, and
we had Kevin O'Connell.
One of the show notes was, "Hey, this guy's related to Aiden O'Connell." And so I finished the Kevin O'Connell interview with one last question, Coach, before you head to practice. It's Las Vegas. It's the Super Bowl. The Raiders have made a run. The Vikings have made a run. Aiden O'Connell's the starting quarterback. What are you going to do? And I'm kind of expecting him to laugh and be like, yeah, I'm not taking it easy on him. He's my nephew. And really don't get any of that. I just kind of got to run our stuff, And then 5 minutes after the interview, I fact-checked that, and it's not true at all. So they're not related.
North Side Chicago kid, Aiden O'Connell.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
North Side Chicago kid.
That explains the Farva mustache.
Yeah. Antonio Pierce looks like a Raider.
Yes.
He should. I love him there.
He fits
I think he
the
fits
whole
the bill.
persona.
He didn't play for him. I
Looks
understand.
like a
We talked
New
about
York
this
Giant.
before. I'm all about the Giants, but he fits the bill. I think those guys play hard for him.
Yeah.
They should keep him.
I think so too. You win this game, it's going to be hard to let him go at the end of the season because all of a sudden this
All right,
team looks.
careful.
Throw a patch on him, and he looks like a Raider. It's perfect.
I don't want to get out of my
same
skis.
thing about Rich Bisaccia.
Yeah, but they fired him.
I know.
But it was the wrong decision.
Rich had won 4 in a row at the end of that season.
But the second time, are you going to make that mistake? And I think that's like the terrifying thing. You already can't live that one down. You hired Josh McDaniels. This guy had you winning games down the stretch. You fired him because you didn't like the offensive game plan in the wild card round or whatever it was against the Raiders or against the Bengals. And all of a sudden, you've got this guy that forgot how to coach offense. So I think they're going to be pressured to look hard at this interim coach.
The Jags are at the Browns. These two teams have combined for 15 wins. And the quarterback Sunday will be C.J. Beathard and perhaps a combo of DTR and Joe Flacco.
Beathard's great at the podium.
Beathard, we've said it several times. He's loose out there. He's in control. He's in command. He's having a good time.
Yeah. I've always liked Beathard. I don't like this spot for him because I think the Browns' defense is totally different at home, and we thought we might not get Myles Garrett for a while, but he played last week. He's going to play this week. And, the only teams that have been able to take advantage of this Cleveland defense have gone gap scheme, have run the football. If you look at Indy, if you look at Baltimore, Indy's more of an inside zone team, and they lined up and ran gap scheme shit, and they scored 38 points on these guys. Some of it was the passing game. But the point is like yards can be had against this defense. Yards were had last week in a different way, albeit. But it's not like these guys are what we were led to believe they were, which is like the Ravens from the turn of the century. They're not that group. You're not that guy. That meme, you're not that guy. That's what you got to come in and say if you're C.J. Beathard and you're Doug Peterson. But the problem I have is how can you run the ball on the Browns if you haven't been able to run the ball on anybody else? And, like the Rams, they got on the edges against these guys. Maybe that's your answer. Quick stuff, jet sweeps, perimeter stuff, quick game, all that. But I just feel like with Christian Kirk out and CJ, who has a shoulder, by the way, already, you're not going to live throwing the ball 40 times this game, especially with how fast these backers and these second-level guys are for Cleveland. Top down, tackling. I worry about that.
The total is 30.5 points.
Is it 30? And I might have to throw that one in too.
Which way?
Under.
I think with the connection that it's a small miracle that the University of Iowa has a starting quarterback in the NFL.
He was going to go Beathard.
I think you got to go under.
Yeah, you got to go under because all the Iowa
There's just too much.
hit,
Yeah,
and there's too much Iowa.
17-13.
And the other question I have is this, okay? If DTR is healthy, is anybody putting him back in there? Listen, we've complimented the kid. He might be okay, but you've got this 38-year-old guy who just came off the couch. And if you look at that first drive, I know it's the script and everything, and, they had that one throwback play in the red zone that a guy was wide open. I think Stefanski's a great play caller. Now it's just about adjusting, your calls to suit him. And I think you can do it. I think you should do it. I wouldn't put DTR back in there even if he clears protocol because, I see what he does with his arm. Joe Flacco, his arm's still there. Like the pick was bad, but he can still run this offense. DTR as a passer, the reason he gives you an edge is because you can involve some of these move the pocket things. You can hit the edge on 3rd and 4 and run a quarterback sweep. You can run a draw. Flacco's not going to give you that, but here's the reason I feel comfortable with him back there is this offensive line's very good. This offensive line's very good. So if I'm the Browns and I'm looking at the Jags and Bears the next 2 weeks, okay, you pick up 2 wins there. They finish with the Browns and Bengals, or not with the Browns and Bengals. They finish with the Browns and somebody else.
Browns finish with the Browns?
The Jets.
They finish with the Jets and Bengals. And you know what? Like, I think they could make a little run here. I keep going back and forth on this team, but if Joe Flacco has a pulse, you don't want to throw the ball 40 times a game with him. That's what they did out the gate when he was in New York with the Jets. That's what they did last week. If you can get back to your bread and butter and suit the offense to him, I think you could be okay here looking at the schedule. I'm not saying you go in the playoffs and win a playoff game, but here's one guy to watch as you're putting your props in this weekend. Elijah Moore. He has come on over the last month, 4.5 targets a game, 58 yards a game. He's top 10 in the league in average separation per next-gen stats. And Flacco is the guy that helped him get his only 100-yard game in the NFL when he was with the Jets. And I've always liked this Elijah Moore guy. He's been one of these guys that you're like, why hasn't he come on more?
Ole Miss Rebel.
Maybe this is an opportunity for him and a quarterback that he has good chemistry with to build a rapport and to be a real plus for them down the stretch.
Christian Kirk out a long time.
A long time.
Long time. All right, we're to the Christmas Carol tier portion of the show, unless you're getting paid to sing the Christmas carols. Panthers at Saints. Carolina's loss to Tampa Bay left the Panthers as the first team eliminated from playoff contention this year.
So this is the bad vibes bowl, man. This is just bad vibes. The Panthers just fired a coach. People are calling for, QB's head in New Orleans. They're asking for, a quarterback in the draft. Like, this is a bad deal. Talking about fired Dennis Allen. You got Michael Thomas tweeting about his team during the game. Like AT is wide open. When your eyes don't work, people get hurt. God is with Jameis. Like, it's obvious he doesn't like Derek Carr, right? Okay, like that's what I'm reading from this situation. And then he deleted his account afterwards, which is like, that's drastic. For all the things that I've said and done on X or Twitter, I've never been
follow
that
Mike.
close. Can't follow Mike.
Thinking man's joke.
And listen, fans in New Orleans, I totally hear you. There should be a change made soon. If Derek Carr is healthy this week and plays, and he can't get the job done,
Well, as a Detroit Lion backer last week, that's 24-21 with 4 minutes to go in the third quarter.
It's the Lions.
After the Taysom Hill touchdown run.
And I don't mean this disparagingly, but it's the Lions. It's the Lions defense. And it's a game that's out of phase, and that's where you can get a lot of yardage and chunks, coming back in a game like that. So I want to see them take care of business at home. They're laying a lot of points. I like the Panthers here, if you're catching the points. But here's the biggest structural issue I have with the Saints, okay? You bring in Derek Carr. The backup's Jameis Winston. His backup is like a guy from the 40s, right? So, like Derek Carr gets hurt, you turn to Jameis Winston, that's your backup. Yeah, on the surface, that guy threw for 1 million yards in Tampa. He's this great college quarterback, the whole thing. But since 2014, the leading interception guys in the league have been Carr and Winston. They're both top fivers in that stat. So, like, when you talk about having a backup quarterback, when your guy goes down, you want a guy that can run the offense, not turn the ball over. He doesn't have to be a huge plus. He's not like a gunslinger, but he's a guy that can kind of take care of business. I don't think Jameis Winston's that guy, and that's why I worry about them. When Carr's out, you think, they're set up well. They've got 2 starting quarterbacks in the National Football League, but they don't have one that's not turnover prone. and you saw the turnovers hurting them in the red zone. Taysom Hill's banged up. If I were them, I'd start Taysom Hill this week if he wasn't banged up. He's got like a leg, he's got like an arm, he's got everything because all he fucking does is run through a motherfucker. And, like this week would be the week to start him and just jam the ball down their throat because Carolina can't stop the run. So that's what you got to do anyways, and you got to limit the turnovers. You cannot turn the ball over, not once against this team. You're not that good to be making mistakes, and the way this thing's been set up, they've got guys that make mistakes at quarterback, and I don't like the scheme. They have no identity. They haven't seemed interested in winning this division, so this is a game. If they don't win this game, pack it in, guys. And I would agree with Saints fans that then you can look at a quarterback next year, and you could look at Jaden Daniels. You could
Careful.
Yeah.
Jake Haener sitting there on your roster, Fresno State.
Also, Jaden Daniels, Broncos. We already just.
Oh yeah, we placed him on the Broncos.
Yeah.
Hey, New Orleans wins. Crab legs on me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay.
Will you really get some good crab legs?
No doubt.
Really?
No doubt.
Where are you gonna find them? Anderson's?
Yeah, we'll find them.
Okay.
I got another guy.
So
I got a crab
Sunday
leg guy.
afternoon.
Yeah, I got a crab leg guy.
Okay, good. If New Orleans wins, we're doing crab legs. We're eating good.
And that's the slate.
Well,
Week
real
14.
fast, something we can react to. Developing news: Lamar Jackson did not practice today. He is out with an illness.
This happens with
Did I bet
Lamar.
the Rams hard enough?
IV.
This
Give him an
happens
IV, he'll
with
be
Lamar.
fine.
I think he'll be fine.
I still play.
He might shit himself like he did against the Browns that one year. Remember when he did the Dookie walk back into the hallway?
He had the
He has
Browns.
these stomach bugs from time to
He
time.
does.
Let's see if the lines moved, and let's see if my memory serves me correctly. Yes, I bet the fuck out of the Rams last night at 1:14 a.m. And then I bet the Bears total at 1:15 a.m.
It is still 7.5 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to circle back on the Bears, Detroit. That game will be a game of a broken play winning it, a long run by Fields.
Yeah.
Bears are set up to win games like that. They're not set up to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
But a weird game like that, and Detroit's just not set up to win like that.
Yeah.
They're not in that environment and that stadium. I think you're looking at the Bears money line for sure.
I like Bears money line.
Yeah. The other thing is now there's a
Come on,
theory. There's a
guys.
theory out there on Vegas, right?
Yeah.
That they're making the lines a little bit easier, so to get rid of the small guy that might be taking bets on the corner of the street over there. So that line should be bigger than it really is.
You're saying in Chicago, they're gaming the system because these local bookies are giving more disadvantageous lines. So Vegas wants to get the Bears fans to take their lines.
No, the theory is Vegas has made lines a little bit easier to eliminate the small town bookies because now it's
across the
competition
board.
across the board. It has nothing to do with Chicago.
So it's about taking the favorites.
Yeah, well, not in this instance, but I think
'cause
there's certain
in this
lines
instance-
because so I'm kind of talking about two different things.
Yeah.
But the point is lines aren't where they should be, and this line should be. I guess the Bears coming off a bye week. I get it, but it should be at least 5, and it's not.
It is a little bit surprising. The total is a little surprising to me, but I'll take it.
The total is very surprising.
And you know what else is happening right now? Favorites are starting. And if you watch the NFL, all of a sudden, if you talk to people that bet these games year in and year out, the totals start hitting late in the season. The favorites start covering. Last week we had a bunch of favorites cover.
The week before.
So it's the switch is maybe coming, and the Undertaker's got to be careful.
Yes, and you also got to remember that back in the day, this wasn't competition for Vegas, but now with the apps and all that stuff, it is.
Yeah.
So they want the money to go towards Vegas.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
My lines have gone to Kansas City and won. They've gone to Green Bay and won. All right, they can go to Chicago and win and cover.
All right. I mean,
Your Lions.
My lines.
You picked them 4th in the division.
Things change, man.
what?
Thanks,
So
James.
good. My Lions.
And I picked the Bears to win.
You
it.
picked the Bears to win the division.
I just want points.